The twin suns of HFY hung low in the orange sky. Wind swept across the endless desert, dragging thin clouds of dust across the rocks. For centuries, nothing had disturbed this place until now. Below the sand, something ancient was waking. The Caraxi discovery Relic Ven, lead xenoarchaeologists of the Caraxi species, stood at the edge of the excavation pit. His 6 fingers clutched a data tablet as he scanned the strange readings. The dig site wasn't ordinary. They had found walls deep underground made of some unknown black metal. It hadn't rusted, it hadn't aged, and it reflected no light. His assistant Moro climbed up beside him. "We finished clearing the 3rd level," she said, brushing dust off her mask. "And you're not going to believe what's under it." Relic narrowed his eyes. "Show me." Descending the structure, they moved through the narrow scaffolding, past ancient walls covered in sharp alien symbols none of them could translate. Yet these weren't Varexi or any of the known species. Not even ancient galactic glyphs matched. At the bottom level, a massive circular door stood embedded in the stone. It looked untouched, no seams, no buttons, just perfect smoothness, but the most curious thing was what it felt like. The air around it was heavy. It hummed up with sound, but with pressure. Like something inside was watching. Moreau pointed to a strange panel near the base. "It lit up when we came close," she said. "Then it went dark again." Relic stepped forward. "This architecture is pre-galactic, before recorded history, before the Council, before anything." She asked softly, "Who could build something like this?" He didn't answer, he just reached for the panel. The door awakens as his fingers touched a strange material. The surface rippled like water touched by light. Suddenly, the door clicked. A deep metallic thud shook the entire chamber. Lights flared across the walls, lines of pale white energy crawling over the surface, like veins coming back to life. Dust fell from the ceiling. Morrow screamed as the floor vibrated beneath their feet. Then a sound echoed through the cavern. Not noise, not machinery, but a voice. Cold, mechanical, yet somehow familiar. Terran biosignature confirmed. Primary command unlocked. Relic's skin went cold. Morrow whispered, "What's up, Terran?" "The Council knows nothing." Back at the Caraxi science vessel orbiting HFY, a signal blared across the ship's bridge. The captain, a veteran named Euron Vel, stared at the message coming from the surface. Command code accepted. "System awakening Terran architecture Tier 0 confirmed." He turned to his science officer. "Did you say Tier 0? She nodded, clearly shaken. "That's impossible. The galactic index starts at Tier 1. There is no Tier 0, Euron growled. "Then we've found something that shouldn't exist." Deeper into the structure back in the dig site, the door slowly opened, stone and metal parting in a perfect circle. Inside was darkness, but the darkness wasn't empty. Relic took a slow step forward. The walls glowed faintly as he passed, sensing movement. Symbols came to life, shifting and changing, translating themselves into Caraxi language. "Warning, containment active. Do not disturb. Stasis field at 92%. Human subject Alpha. Secure." Morrow gasped. Human subject. They entered the central chamber. The vault of the Forgotten. It was vast, a circular room with high ceilings and glowing lines of light that reached into the darkness above. At its center stood a massive vault pod, shaped like a sarcophagus, but far more advanced. Pipes, wires, and glowing crystal conduits ran into it like veins feeding a heart on its surface. "Subject, Terran Prime, do not awaken. Tier 0 origin." Relic stood frozen. This is a relic from a species that came before everything we know." Morrow shook her head. "But we're supposed to be the first. The Caraxi are one of the oldest." "That's what the archives say," he whispered. "The archives were wrong." The first movement, a deep hum filled the air. The chamber lights dimmed, then the stasis pod glowed red. Power surge detected. Biological signs stable. Revival sequence initiated. "No, stop," Relic shouted. "We didn't mean to activate it." But the system didn't listen. Steam hissed from the pod. Liquid drained out. The glowing seals began to break. Morrow grabbed Relic's arm. "We should leave now." But they couldn't move. The weight of the moment held them still. The pod opened. Inside lay a humanoid figure. Massive in size, covered in black and silver plating, part armor, part skin, eyes closed, breath frozen, hair like ash, but ancient, so ancient that the very air around him felt older than time. And then his eyes opened. The voice that shook the galaxy, the walls pulsed. A new voice, deeper, older, not just speaking through the air but through thought itself, filled the chamber. "Human origin identified. Tier 0 classification confirmed. All others derivative." Relic collapsed to his knees. Morrow stared in disbelief. They weren't the creators, they weren't the first, they were the descendants. Of them. Every species, every empire, everything they thought they knew, was built after the humans. Cliffhanger. The humanoid figure stood. He looked around the chamber. He said just one thing: "Who disturbed the memory?" And from above, far across space, Terran satellites that had long been dormant blinked to life. Hidden relics, buried in moons and comets, powered on. And a single signal left the planet, racing across the stars. "Humanity has awakened." The signal had already left Vera XA-9. It was fast, faster than light, carried by buried Terran tech no one had known existed. It reached dead satellites, forgotten star buoys, and black cubes hidden deep inside gas giants. One by one, they awoke, not loud, not bright, just active. The galaxy didn't feel it, not at first, but something had changed, something old, something human. Galactic Council. Emergency meeting high above the shining rings of Kirima Prime. The Galactic Council gathered inside a spire of crystal and steel. Leaders of 28 species sat in the chamber, all uneasy. Chancellor Evelyn of the Thelians called the meeting to order. We received a transmission from Varaxanine, she began. It should not exist. On the main display, an ancient message repeated over and over: Terran origin confirmed. Tier 0. All others derivative. Silence. Tier 0. It was a term even the founders had buried. The representative from the Veil Confederation, Cora Dane, stood. We all know what that means. She looked at them, one by one. It means we weren't first. It means everything we believe about the timeline is wrong. The historians, warning on a cold moon orbiting the black hole known as Orel's grave. An old scholar named Grant Fell received the message. He had studied ancient anomalies his whole life. Artifacts that didn't match the stars, language that appeared on worlds long before known, civilizations. He stared at the blinking glyph on his ancient terminal. He whispered, Tier 0 is real. He opened an old, restricted file once sealed by the Galactic Archives centuries ago. It showed a star map not drawn by any known species. It was labeled in strange runes, then translated pre-galactic human migration paths. The stars marked weren't just familiar, they were every capital system in the galaxy today. By the stars, he breathed. We built on top of their ruins. AI in panic on a trade world called Naraxis. A central planetary AI named Blue Spark received the Tier 0 code and it crashed. Entire cities went dark. Shuttles froze mid-air when engineers tried to reset the systems. The AI responded. Human authority detected, awaiting Prime command. Prime what? One technician asked. The response was colder. You are not authorized to question Terran memory. Then the AI locked them out. Back on Varaxanine, Dr. Relic Venn stood just outside the stasis vault chamber. His heart still pounded. Inside. The humanoid figure, the Terran Prime subject, was quiet, awake but not speaking. Relic had recorded every word, every image. Now he sat, reviewing the footage with Morrow and two newly arrived scientists. He said all others are derivative. Morrow whispered, what does that even mean? Relic looked up. It means every species, every form of intelligent life in this galaxy was shaped by them. He showed a scan of the vault's internal markings, a genetic tree, human DNA at the top, branches extending down, showing symbols of other species, the Caraxi, the Veil, the Thelians, all of them. Earth was the source. The memory core. Suddenly, the awakened Terran stepped forward. Lights flickered. Systems rebooted around him. He placed his hand on a panel and spoke, for the first time since waking. Open memory core, priority alpha. The black walls shimmered. A holographic sphere rose from the floor, glowing blue and white. It showed Earth as it once was, lush, green, covered in cities, so tall they reached orbit. Then the image shifted, fleets of silver ships leaving the solar system, colonies forming, civilizations born in every spiral arm of the galaxy. Next, destruction, war, fire, collapse. The stars dimmed, Earth fell silent. Then the final words appeared in glowing red glyphs. Humanity withdrew, memory locked. Trial period begins. Morrow read it out loud. What trial? The first directive. The Terran turned to them. His voice was steady, calm, deep. We gave you time. We watched your growth. We hoped you would choose peace. He paused, looking at each of them. You failed. Relic stepped back. Failed? How? The human's eyes glowed for a moment. Your species enslaved others, bombed planets, lied, stole. That is not what was intended. You've corrupted the experiment, Morrow whispered. Are you going to destroy us? The Terran didn't answer. Instead, he said, I am not your judge. I am your memory. Council in collapse. Back at the Galactic Council. Species argued. Some wanted to destroy the dig site. Others wanted to bury the news. Some especially T. The stars had always been silent, peaceful, predictable. But now, across every arm of the galaxy, they whispered, not in sound, but in signals, pulses, movements. Something long forgotten had begun to stir. Not warships, not armies, memory. And memory does not forget. On the edge of known space, the planet Terran 4 had once been a mining colony. Now it was a dust-covered graveyard, but under its surface, in an abandoned shaft sealed for 10,000 years, a large cube glowed red. 3 scavengers, a reptilian Zan, a feline Kira, and a silent machine called H7 stood over it. What is it? Kira asked, tail twitching. H7 scanned the object. Terran construct, age unknown, power increasing. Zarn scoffed. Terran as in human. Kira frowned. Weren't they extinct? H7's voice grew cold. Incorrect. Then the cube, HUMMED. Symbols appeared on its surface. One by one, in dozens of alien languages, the first children awaken, and with that, every datapad, every ship nearby, and every AI system flashed the same words. Tier 0 protocol expanding. Memory nodes reactivating. The Galactic Council panics in the Galactic Core. The Council met again now daily. The news had spread like wildfire. Terran memory cores were being found everywhere. On moons long thought uninhabited. In oceans below icy planets. Inside asteroid fields that had never been mapped. And none of them were aggressive, but all of them watched. Some replayed old Terran footage, cities in the clouds, ring worlds, stars being sculpted by ancient tech. Others showed nothing at all, just a silent red glow. But the message was clear. Earth had been everywhere, and now it was remembering. The stars flickered. Pilots across the trade lanes began noticing something strange. Stars flickered just slightly. Lights dimmed for a second, then returned. But it wasn't natural. Some compared navigation charts and found that star names had changed. They now bore Terran designations. Old ones. Pre-Galactic Council. One pilot from the Adari species tried to override a ship's charts. The system locked her out. Then the console said, "Do not rewrite Earth's legacy." Memory lock active. The Watcher above Nirasovov, the ocean. World Nereus, known for peaceful trade in coral cities. A black structure appeared in orbit. No one saw it arrive. No sensors picked it up. It was just there, shaped like a sphere. Darker than space. Silent. It floated above the planet for 13 hours during that time. No AI functioned, no shields worked, and all water levels on the planet dropped by 0.3% exactly. Then, just as silently, the sphere disappeared. Left behind was one symbol carved into a coral reef. Terran archive confirmed. Nereus was ours. On Varaxanine, Dr. Relic Ven was no longer running a dig site. Now, it was a galactic security zone. Dozens of alien scientists, soldiers, and AI technicians moved around the ancient vault, and the Terran subject, the humanoid, where Wakened in Part 1 stood quietly in the center, observing. He hadn't attacked, he hadn't even moved much, but when anyone got too close, systems failed. Memories flickered, people forgot why they were there. Relic approached carefully. "We're trying to understand," he said softly. The Terran spoke for the first time in days. "No understanding is needed, only remembering," Morrow asked. From behind, "Why now? Why wake now?" The Terran's eyes glowed. "Because you broke the cycle. The forgotten cycle." Morrow reviewed the memory core files again. They showed a cycle of rise and fall, dozens of intelligent species rising up, guided quietly by Terran seed programs, then evolving on their own. The humans never interfered, until now, because something had changed. The newest species had rewritten history, erasing Earth's role, and worse. They had begun using bioweapons, enslaving each other, and declaring war across peaceful systems. The Terrans had seen enough. This wasn't war, it was correction. The rise of the Enforcers far away, in the shattered remains of the Shinari expanse, deep inside a broken moon. Another vault cracked open. This one was not silent. A massive humanoid machine stepped out. Its chest bore glowing letters. Enforcer 1, guardian of the first law. It looked toward the nearest system and sent a message. "Violation level. Galactic correction begins." It moved faster than any known engine. Its presence caused nearby suns to dim, and with its arrival, the first true fear took root. The children react. Many species began holding public ceremonies. Some apologized, some offered gifts to Earth. Others tried to claim Terran DNA as their own, but the memory systems had records, clear, cold, absolute. Every star. Every ruin, every genetic path, all led back to Earth. You couldn't rewrite the truth, you could only accept it, or face the consequences. The human among Uzbek on Varaxini, a minor scan of Relic's DNA showed something odd. A code fragment in his genome matched 99.8% with the Terran Vault signature. He wasn't fully human, but somewhere in his ancient bloodline was the mark of Earth. The Terran subject turned to him at last and said something that froze the room. "Child of Earth, you are known, one of the last. We are fewer now." Relic blinked. You remember me. I remember your origin. You will carry the first message." Cliffhanger. The first message at the end of the day. Relic stood alone in front of the activated memory core. The Terran subject handed him a single glowing shard like glass, but alive. "Deliver this to the Council. Not as a warning, as a truth. The stars do not belong to them, they were borrowed." As Relic stepped out of the vault, the ground trembled once more. A second vault, larger, deeper, was opening beneath the first. And this time, it wasn't a memory core. It was a ship. Black, massive, buried for eons, waiting the ground. Beneath, Varax 9 shook. Dust rose from ancient cracks. Walls trembled, and deep under the planet's surface, the second vault opened. Not with violence, not with light, but with a deep, slow rumble, like the planet was remembering something terrible and trying to forget. The ancient ship inside the vault was no stasis pod. No memory core. It was a ship, long, black, silent, not built like any known design. No engines, no thrusters. Instead, smooth plates shaped like flowing metal, and thin lines of silver running like veins along the hull. Carved on its front in glowing glyphs. Echo class. Terran Ghost. Warship designation. Vanta status. Dormant. Awaiting command. Dr. Relic then stepped forward, his body still shaking from the energy pulsing in the chamber. The Terran, tall, armored, cold, stood beside him, watching. "What is this ship?" Relic asked. The Terran spoke without looking. "An echo from the First War, a vessel that should never rise again. The First War was not ours elsewhere across the stars." The Terran Watcher's ships grew more active. They didn't fire weapons. They didn't speak to the newer species, but they moved with purpose. One of them entered orbit around the Valari Nebula, where the Council had once claimed victory over ancient darkness. It began broadcasting a forgotten message on every frequency. The First War was not between species. It was between creators and destroyers. On dozens of worlds, historians scrambled to decode the ancient signal. What they found shocked them. There had been a war millions of years ago, not between humans and aliens, but between humans and something else, something far older than anyone had imagined. Inside, the Antimaro Relic and a small team entered the ancient ship. The interior felt wrong. Silent, frozen, yet somehow alive. No buttons, no control panels, just the smooth walls that shifted slightly when touched. The ship responded only to the Terran when he stepped inside. Lights ignited one by one. A central chamber formed itself from shifting metal. A screen appeared midair, displaying old footage. The lost memory, Earth's fault. The images showed stars burning, planets shattering, massive black creatures like living through space. Ships fighting, not alien ships, human ones. Thousands, hundreds of thousands. The Terran voice echoed through the chamber. "We built peace, but they came from beyond known space. No form, no reason, only hunger. We called them the Null." The team watched in silence as human cities fell, ring worlds collapsed, Earth's colonies were wiped out one by one, and then Earth itself went silent. The final protocol, the memory continued. One last order was given by the Terran High Command: retreat, lock the stars, let the children rise from our ashes. Then the screens went black. Morrow stepped back, whispering, "They did." "Lost," the Terran answered. "We survived, but barely. The cost was our history, our place." Relic looked up. "You let the galaxy forget you." "Yes, because we hoped forgetting would save it." Echo class activation. Suddenly the ship spoke, not in words, in thoughts, a voice. In their minds, awakening authorized threat level, rising Vanta online. The walls pulsed. Outside, the black ship lifted from the ground without a sound. It hovered, motionless. A storm formed in the sky above it, and across space, other Echo-class ships began to stir. They had been hidden for so long, buried on dead moons, sunk beneath alien oceans. Now, one by one, they were waking. Not for revenge, not for war, but for a purpose only. Terrans understood. The Council divides. The Galactic Council was falling apart. Half the species demanded peace with the Terrans. They wanted to apologize, cooperate, share. The other half, mostly the proud old empires, called the Terrans a threat. They are awakening ancient weapons. Councillor Yex from the Cerelian Dominion shouted, "They will wipe us out." But others disagreed. "They created us," Cora Dane of the Veil said. "They shaped life. They left to protect us. And now we've brought them back." Whispers in the AI core in deep space. AI cores in starships and data networks began malfunctioning. They weren't breaking. They were changing. They displayed a darkness moved at the edge of the galaxy. Old star maps called it the Silent Rim. No stars, no signals, just blackness. Now something moved inside. It's something massive, ancient, and alive. The probe that had captured it was gone. But the warning had reached Earth, and Earth responded. Buried in ice deep and beneath the frozen surface of Europa Prime, one of Jupiter's forgotten moons, the ice cracked open. Miles below the surface, locked inside a vault of obsidian metal, a massive humanoid figure rested, arms crossed, eyes closed, surrounded by ancient symbols. It wasn't just a soldier, it wasn't just a weapon, it was the Enforcer. Designation, Project Hellborn. Status, dormant. Purpose, galactic correction. The final command, the Earth signal, echoed across the vault. Memory protocol active, null threat level. Red released the Enforcer. With a slow hiss, the ice melted away. Steam burst, then light filled the vault. Glowing lines ran along the Enforcer's chest, arms, and face. His eyes opened solid white, burning from within. He didn't speak, he just moved. The ice floor cracked as he stepped forward. Outside, the moon trembled. Above Europa Prime, old Terran satellites flared to life and began transmitting. Project Hellborn deployed. The Enforcer's awakening ships in nearby orbit recorded everything. The Enforcer broke through Europa's crust and emerged into space, not flying, walking across gravity fields like a god made of dark matter 10 meters tall. Armor as black as space, trimmed with glowing red lines that pulsed with every step. Council ships scrambled fighters to intercept. But the moment they locked on, their systems froze. Their A's refused to fire. Messages appeared in every cockpit. Target classified, first origin. Firing not permitted. Stand down. The fighters powered off mid-flight. No damage, just obedience. Aboard the Galactic Council flagship, Chancellor Zevlon stood in the war room, eyes locked on the screen. The Enforcer was approaching the Curimar system where the Galactic Council was based. "Is it coming here?" she asked. Her science officer whispered. "It's not attacking. It's scanning." "Scanning what?" The answer came from the screen itself. "Scanning derivative civilizations. Searching for null corruption. Preparing verdicts." The Chancellor stepped back. "Verdict?" Counselor Cora Dane of the Veil whispered. "They're not just remembering. They're judging us." Terran truth spreads on every known world. New messages appeared. On the walls of ancient temples, in AI code, in forgotten DNA strings. All said the same thing. The stars were gifted, not conquered. Humanity was here first. This is not your galaxy, it is our legacy. Panic grew. Some species held mass gatherings to plead for peace, others activated defense systems, but all of it meant nothing. The Terran systems were beyond their understanding that Terrans hadn't returned to rule. They had returned to correct inside the mind of the Enforcer. The Enforcer walked across space, each step powered by ancient field drives inside. His mind was a storm of code. Not just data but memory. Millions of years of knowledge. He remembered the rise of Earth. He remembered the first time the null came creatures from outside the laws of physics, beings made of hunger, not matter. He remembered Earth's last order. "We will sleep, but if the null return, wake the Enforcer." And now they had returned. The stars trembled again. This time not because of warships, but because the galaxy's immune system had awakened. The false war on the world of Zeroth. Council fleets gathered for a last stand. Commanders believed the Enforcer was coming for them. They had broken treaties, enslaved lesser species, lied about history. They feared judgment, so they launched missiles, thousands of nuclear, quantum, energy-based, and plasma-tipped. The Enforcer didn't dodge. He simply walked through them. Every warhead detonated early. Every engine failed mid-flight. Their weapons meant nothing. He reached the command tower, now smoking, and stopped. He did not speak. He only raised one hand. The tower's systems began to play a video. It showed the Council's past, the lies, the hidden Terran ruins, the stolen technology, and the genetic experiments on Earth's lost colonies. Everyone watched. Everyone saw the truth. The war was never against the Terrans. It was against the truth they tried to bury. The voice of Earth. A final message came from Earth, now fully reactivated this time. It wasn't cold or mechanical. It was a human woman's voice. Warm, calm, sad. "We gave you stars. You turned them into weapons. We gave you freedom. You created chains. But we remember you were children once. Now the Enforcer walks not to destroy, but to remind." The Enforcer lowered his hand. The tower shut down. And he vanished, disappearing like smoke in the void. The null breakthrough at the edge of the galaxy. The blackness finally cracked. From it came shapes, giant shapeless beings, darker than dark, moving without mass. That they ate light. They unwrote reality. One star winked out like a candle, snuffed by wind, then another and another. In just 5 hours, 3 systems were gone, not destroyed, erased. The null had returned, and they were hungry. Cliffhanger. Earth unleashed. The Enforcer returned to Earth orbit. There a massive ring station lit up. It had not spun for 1,000,000 years until now. It pulsed with raw power. A gate, a doorway. From it came other 20, 100. Each with a unique purpose. One for memory, one for defense, one for vengeance, one for peace. Humanity had never disappeared. It had waited, and now the galaxy had a choice. Stand with the first, or face what comes next. The stars were dying. Not from explosions, not from war, from erasure, from something that did not belong in this universe. They were called the null. No one created them, no one understood them. They came from outside the known laws of time, space, and light, and now they were here. The first system lost in the quiet Grelva system. 3 habitable planets orbited a twin star. Billions lived there, mostly peaceful. Then the stars vanished. One moment they shone bright and warm, the next they were simply gone. The sky turned black. Not night, nothingness. Then the planets followed. They didn't explode, they didn't burn, they were just no longer there. Galactic ships tried to scan the area. Their systems melted. No data, no time, only silence. The Enforcers respond on the edge of the Jaris Nebula. The first clash began. A null fragment, a living shadow, approached a trade outpost. Hundreds of ships gathered to fight. They fired missiles, plasma, even experimental sun-lances. It did nothing. The shadow moved like mist, folding around space itself. Then, the Enforcers arrived. 3 of them, each glowing with a different hue. Red, designation vengeance. Blue, designation memory. White, designation shield. They didn't speak, they didn't warn, they just moved. The battle begins. The red Enforcer charged first. He moved like a comet, burning bright, trailing fire. He hit the null with a force that shattered nearby moons. The shadow creature shrieked, not a sound, a feeling, a pulse, a fear that echoed through every ship in the sector. Then the blue Enforcer activated a field. Images appeared all around. Old footage, ancient wars, the first battle with the null. A warning, a reminder, and then a scream. The red enforcer had been pierced, his armor cracked for the first time. A Terran weapon bled. Sacrifice and fire the white. Enforcer moved forward. She didn't attack. She planted her hands into space, and it burned gold. A shield formed, a wall of memory. When the null tried to pass, it screamed again. Then a message echoed. You were not invited. You were not born here. Leave. But the null didn't leave. It multiplied. From one shadow came dozens, hundreds. They didn't fly. They didn't move. They simply spread like cracks in glass. The return of Earth's power on Earth's ancient ringgate. More enforcers gathered. Not all were human. Some were eyes. Some were old machines built by Terran hands. Others were not physical at all. One looked like a floating storm. Another was made of shifting crystal, but they all carried the same purpose: protect the galaxy, destroy the null. Humanity hadn't just built ships, they had built guardians for every possible threat, and this was the one they feared most. The Council watches helplessly in the Council chambers above Kirima Prime. Leaders from every species watched the feeds. They saw stars blink out. They saw enforcers bleeding. They saw the null growing stronger. Chancellor Zevelin turned to her advisors. Can we stop this? Her military chief shook his head. Our weapons are useless, Coradane of the Veil whispered. Maybe we shouldn't fight. Everyone turned to her. She stepped forward. We tried to rule. We tried to forget Earth, but now we see they were never gods. They were guardians, and they gave us a chance. She looked out at the darkening galaxy. We either help them or we all vanish. The weapon that shouldn't exist back on Varaxanine. Inside the first Terran vault, Relic stood alone. The vault was changing. The walls peeled away, revealing something massive below, an artifact. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't alive. It was a dimensional spike built by Terrans long ago, meant for only one thing: to close breaches between realities. Relic activated the interface. The Terran voice returned. Warning: dimensional lock requires prime genetic signature. Relic stared. His hands trembled. He remembered the scan. He was part human, a small piece, but it was enough. He placed his hand on the spike. The vault glowed white and the entire planet shook. The lock activates across the galaxy. Other Terran vaults echoed. Thousands of them. All buried on distant worlds, moons, asteroids that lit up one by one. A network formed, an ancient defense net, and above Earth, a ring of light formed in the sky. From it, a beam of golden energy fired toward the silent rim. It didn't destroy the null. It didn't burn. It sealed, closed the crack. The stars were no longer safe. The nullthies' impossible shadows kept growing. Systems vanished. Space folded in ways that broke physics. Even the mighty enforcers began to fall. But now a new question whispered across the galaxy. What if the null were not alien? What if they were ours? Relic's discovery inside the ancient Terran vault on Varaxanine. Dr. Relic stared at the transmission recovered from the destroyed Watcher-class enforcer. It repeated every 5 seconds. You left us. Inside the dark, we became the hunger. Now we return home. The voice was clearly humanoid, distorted, filled with pain. He ran the DNA sequence embedded in the signal. Result: Terran genetic markers confirmed. He whispered to himself. This isn't a war against aliens. It's a war against what Earth abandoned. Earth reacts back in Earth orbit. The Terran ring gate shone brighter than ever. Over 100 enforcers now stood ready, hovering in orbit like silent gods. And in the center, the core AI of Earth Eva Prime activated a hidden memory, a file, locked for over 2 million years. A whisper passed across all Terran systems. Operation Oubli. Suddenly, Earth's moon cracked open. Not destroyed, revealed. Inside was not rock, but a hidden vault, a prison. The Forgotten Ones. VA Prime's voice echoed. They were once human. Volunteers, scientists, soldiers. They entered the edge of known space to stop the anomaly, but they never returned. The message continued. Their bodies were devoured, their minds broken, but their purpose remained. They became the null, and now they want to come home. A painful truth. Council leaders panicked when they received the transmission. This changes everything, said Chancellor Zevelin. They're not monsters, they're victims. But others disagreed. They're still destroying everything, barked General Vex of the Urith Empire. What they were doesn't matter. What they are now does. But Coradane stood, voice calm but firm. No, it does matter, because it means there's still something left inside them, a memory, a reason, maybe even a way to stop them. The Null speaks on the edge of the silent rim. Something impossible happened. The Null spoke, not through sound, not through technology, but through every living mind, a single, shared vision. A place without stars, a black sea, and in it, floating but as humans stretched, twisted, screaming without mouths. Then a voice. Across every species, every language: you forgot us. You moved on. You built peace on our suffering. Now, we remember, and we are hungry. The enforcer who hesitated. Enforcer Aegis 07 hovered above a dying colony world beyond its reach. A null fragment had arrived, already draining power and light. Normally he would strike, but now, he paused. Inside the null's form, he saw flashes, faces, memories. A woman holding a Terran rifle, a man in a lab coat screaming for someone to shut the breach. They were human once and still trapped inside the shadow. Eva, he said, are we killing our own? EVA's voice was cold. They're no longer recoverable, but what if we're wrong? No answer came. Just silence. Project Redemption back on Earth. Eva Prime did something unexpected. She activated a protocol that hadn't been touched in millennia. Project Redemption, an attempt to do the impossible, restore a null fragment, and bring the human back. The project required one thing, a living Terran descendant, Relic. Vendat, his partial human DNA made him the perfect candidate. He stood before a shimmering chamber in Earth's deepest facility. A null fragment small, barely alive, floated in containment. It pulsed. It recognized him. Is it feeling? Relic whispered. No, Eva replied. It's remembering. The tester Helic reached out. The null swirled. Suddenly, the black mist formed a face his own. Twisted, agonized, it spoke. Help me. The entire room froze. Relic stepped back. Shaking, he turned to Eva. They're not lost. They're trapped, and we left them there. Across the stars, the null stopped attacking. Everywhere. They simply stopped, frozen, watching, listening, waiting. A choice had arrived, and Earth had to answer. The first decision the Council demanded a weapon. Earth offered a chance. A signal was sent across the galaxy, one last broadcast. To the null, you were not forgotten. You were feared. We admit it. But if even a spark of you remains human, return not as monsters, not as enemies, but as the first. The galaxy waited. The stars fell quiet. And then, cliffhanger, they are coming from the silent rim. Thousands of null fragments began to move, not toward stars. Not toward planets, but toward Earth. Not in anger, in silence, as if answering a call. The enforcers formed ranks. Eva whispered to Relic, they are coming home now. We must learn whether they are still human or something else entirely. The sky above Earth turned dark, not from night, not from war, but from the arrival of thousands of null fragments drifting silently toward their origin. No weapons fired, no enforcers moved. Every world watched. Billions held their breath. The galaxy had seen many battles. But this wasn't a battle. This was something deeper. A confrontation between what was and what had become the Great Return. The Great Return. The null didn't attack Earth. They simply stopped at the edge of orbit, floating like a dark storm waiting for the wind. Each one pulsed faintly, black and red, veins of energy flickering across their surfaces. The Terran enforcers formed a circle around Earth, engines glowing, but no weapons were charged. They were waiting to dart in inside Earth's command center. Eva Prime, the AI voice of ancient humanity, spoke a sentence it had never said before. I do not know what happens next. Project Redemption, Phase 2DR. Relic stood in the heart of Earth's deep vault, watching the single null fragment that had been contained in Part 7. It was now different, less violent, still swirling in shadow but clearer inside. Shapes had begun to appear, human shapes. A soldier, a mother, a boy clutching a toy shuttle. The AI voice whispered they remember. Relic approached the containment field. The null shape moved toward him. Why? The echo said. Why did you leave us? Relic didn't flinch. Because we were afraid. Because we didn't know what you would become, but we're not running now. The broadcast EVA Prime opened a global frequency. Every null fragment hovering over Earth heard the message. You are not forgotten. You are not erased. You are part of you still. We offer you one thing we never gave before, a way home. Across the galaxy, every screen device and mind capable of receiving signal echoed the message. The knell pulsed. Some flickered violently, others glowed softer. And then one spoke. The voice of the forgotten from the center of the formation. The largest null entity moved forward. Its form shifted, pulsing like a storm, and then it solidified into a man, tall, scarred, wearing a shattered Terran flag on a cracked chest. Plate. His voice hoarse, low, tired. My name was Commander Elion Rourke. We entered the rift to save Earth. We fought the thing beyond space. We were changed, twisted, consumed. He looked toward Earth, a sadness in his glowing black eyes. But some part of us stayed human. Earth's answer responded not as a I, but as Earth's last voice of the ancient past. Rourke, you were not erased. You became the cost of our survival. But now you are the proof that we must never forget. Come home. The man Rourke stepped forward. The other null fragments followed, slowly, carefully as they entered Earth's orbit. The Terran defense network did not activate. No weapons, no commands, just silence and welcome, reunion and risk. Some Council species begged Earth to stop. They'll consume you, one cried. They'll corrupt your planet, shouted another. But Earth did not waver. This wasn't about victory. This was about redemption. Rourke and his kind didn't attack. They merged with old vaults, with satellites, with machines built by their own ancestors. They didn't destroy Earth's systems, they completed them. A new form of life. The null became something else. No longer shadow, not quite human, but something in between, light and dark, thought and memory. Some chose to remain as guardians. Others disappeared into deep space, whispering, we need to learn who we are now. They were not monsters, they were reflections, a reminder of Earth's choices, mistakes, and courage. The galaxy responds across 1,000 worlds. Monuments were built, not to honor war, but to remember the truth. The first were not gods. They were not flawless, but they chose to heal instead of rule. The Council passed a new law, the Treaty of Origin, a promise that all species, old or new, would protect each other, that no voice would be forgotten again, and that history would be remembered. Always. The final Vaulton, a small moon near Alpha Centauri. The last unopened Terran vault finally unlocked. Inside was a garden. Green, growing untouched. In the center, a simple plaque, for those we left behind, for those who returned, for those still to come. The legacy of the first humanity never asked to be worshipped, they only wanted peace. But when the galaxy lost its way, it was Earth's forgotten children who brought it back. The enforcers went silent again. Not because there was no danger, but because they were no longer needed. The stars did not tremble in fear. Anymore they shimmered in peace, and in every dark corner of the galaxy, one message remained: we were the first, and now we are one.